Welcome back to the Bright Podcast. I hope and pray that everyone is having an absolutely fantastic day. And I thank you for taking time out of your day to come and listen to me talk about some of my favorite songs. And I hope that you have been and will be encouraged and uplifted, and that you have a newfound love for some of these songs that we've talked about. And that you really think about the words as you're singing these songs and focus on their meaning. And because if you do, if you have, I hope you've seen and seen that when you really think about the words of these songs, that they change your perspective on worship as whole. When you really get into singing and really, really think about what these words mean when you're singing and who you're singing them to. So with that being said, let's get into this week's song, where we're going to take a look at the song, The Greatest Commands, which says, "Love one another, for love is of God. He who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love. Love bears all things. Love believes all things. Love hopes all things. Love endures all things. God is love. God is love. God is love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, for God is love. God is love." It's one of my favorite songs where the different parts are singing. It's just such a beautiful song to sing. I love singing this one, especially. And it just reminds me of several verses from the Bible. And it's just that great reminder that God is love. And without God's love, we've talked about a lot this season, and it's just pretty much the basis of your life. It's just God is love, and because of His love, we can do so many great things because of His love. And that just reminds me of what the Israelites had to go through. They, didn't have a home, really, in the Old Testament. They were either living in some other country, or they were living in their country, but somebody was in charge, or they just didn't have a place to call home. But what they did have is a God who loved them, a God who told them that He loved them, a God who promised them many things. And just one of my favorite passages from the Old Testament, from Deuteronomy chapter 6, just reminds us of what's most important in life. Especially when you think of what's going on here in this passage, the context of it, where the Israelites have escaped Egypt. They're kind of in this middle phase of, we're in the wilderness, but we just left our, kind of a nice home in Egypt where we had food and shelter, but it was still was difficult. But now we're out here in the wilderness. We don't have much food. We don't have much shelter. It's just you got to kind of pick and choose what you have and what you don't have, there. But in chapter 5 of Deuteronomy, you get some of the commandments here. And then in chapter 6, you have the greatest commandment. Starting in verse 4, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And the words that I command to you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand. They shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." It's just that reminder of, you have all these commandments, but the greatest commandment, the one that you got to follow, that it's a non-negotiable, the one you have to follow, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And then Jesus repeats this same exact words in Matthew chapter 22. In Matthew 22, the Pharisees, Sadducees, they come up to him, saying, verse 34, When the Pharisees heard it, they had silenced the Sadducees. They gathered together, and then one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him and saying, "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" And you might think, easy question, right? We just read in Deuteronomy. In your Bible, it probably says something like the greatest commandment or something like that. It's that simple. Jesus says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind." This is the first and great commandment. It's that simple. Jesus be like, "You guys just soft tossed this one to me," or something. Just like, that's the one. You put God first in everything you do. You love God, as like it says, all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. That's the first. That's the great commandment. That's the one you got to focus, put all your time, energy, your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength into. Because you do that, then the rest of life is, not going to be too hard. Because you're putting all that focus, all that priority on loving God. And then the rest of it just comes easy, just comes naturally, I feel like. And then the next verse it says, "And the second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself." And that's true. You got to love God first. You got to love other people too. Can't do this alone. Christianity is not a one-man show. You can't do it by yourself. You got to have people with you to do it. You got to love on those people. Because when you're in your darkest and your deep, lowest depths of life, it's those people that are closest to you that you love the most, that they love you the most. They're going to be there for you. And you need those people in your life because you never know what's going to happen in your life. You need those love of those people. Most importantly, you need the love of God. God's going to put all the love on us. It's up to us to put all that love back to Him. It's just that in the first verse, he who does not love does not know God. And that's not saying it doesn't say he who does not love God. He who does not love doesn't know God. We have to love on people so that we can know God. If we don't love people here on earth, how are we going to love God? It's just something to think about. Because we know God. Like, as Christians here, we know God. We know the people around us. But are we loving them just because, they're family, because they're our friends? Or are we loving them because God put them in our lives? Because God loved us so much that He put the right people in our lives so that we could get through the mountains and the valleys of life. And I think when you can rethink your relationship with people instead of, oh, they're my family, they're my cousins or brothers or whatever, best friend, your ball team or whatever. When you think of, instead of saying, oh, they're my friend down the road, just think, that's my neighbor, right? That's somebody that God put there for me, you put there for them, so that you could have that relationship. So at 3 a.m, when your best friend just is going through it, they call you up, and you answer the phone because they do the same for you. When it's, hey, I need you to be here right now. It's that kind of friend. It's that kind of neighbor. It's that kind of relationship that God has with us, because we can go to God whenever, wherever, for however long, for however short a time. We can go to God. He is going to answer prayers. Might not always be in the way we think. Might not always be in the time that we think it is. It's going to be. God's going to answer our prayers in one way or another. We have to love ourselves. We got to love our neighbors. We got to love everybody here on earth. Most importantly, we got to love God. Then what the bass sings in this song reminds is just from First John. And First John is just a wonderful, wonderful book of the Bible. It has so many practical things in it. But I just want to read a couple passages from here. From First John. Starting in chapter 2, verse 15, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but it is of the world. And the world is passing away in the lust of it, but he who does the will of God abides forever. That just again reminds me of that first part of the song. He who does not love does not know God. That's just scary to think about. If we don't love others, then we don't really love God. I know that might come easy. It might come easy to love people. Certain people might come just be impossible to love certain people. I get it. It's just with eternity at the balance, we got to put our pride aside, our differences aside. Because one day it's not going to matter that this person was better at you at whatever. But you just didn't like this person because. That's not going to matter. What's going to matter is that you showed some love to them, they showed some love on you, and you were there for them, they were there for you. And that you might have had your ups and downs with this person, but hey, you put your differences aside, and you realize that that's a soul. That's a person that God put in your life, maybe to challenge you, maybe to show you that loving on people isn't all that easy. Maybe God put that person in your life to show you what love is, to show you what the love between God and his people are. But the world, verse 17, the world is passing away. The lust of it, the desires of this world is going to be gone. Everything we see in this is going to be gone except the love of God to his people and the love of his people to him. And that's just something we got to remember. Put all our differences aside, because loving God's the most important thing we can do in our lives. And then just another passage from 1 John chapter 3, verse 16. By this we know love, because he laid down his life for us, and we also ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. And that's just hard to think about. And that's why it's in the Bible. It's in the book. It's here for a reason. Jesus taught it. Jesus did it. His apostles are teaching it. His apostles did it. It's now up to us to read it and to actually do it. Because Jesus loved us enough to lay down his life for us, to go through all that. Not so that we could live here and hate somebody, but so that we could sit here and love everybody. Jesus went through it a lot worse than we're going to have to go through it. And that's just something we're going to have to accept. And then another verse from 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. In this, the love of God was manifested toward us, that God has sent his only begotten Son into the world, that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we love God, but that he loved us, and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. And it's easier said than done, I know that. It's just the greatest command is to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, all our mind, all our strength. and then to love our neighbor as ourselves. Jesus said to hang those two on all the law and all the prophets, all those, your entire, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, all that. All those chapters, all those laws of all the sacrifices and everything. None of that's important anymore. It's important for us to know, but it's not important for us to live out. What's more important for us to live out is the greatest command, to love God with all we've got, to love our neighbor. Because if we don't do that, we don't know God. And I'm going to leave you with this. You know the verse, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Just think about that. Next time you want to be hateful towards someone, next time you want to be hurtful towards someone, next time you want to be rude, next time you want to be mean, next time you want to have a bad attitude, think about that. Have that as a reminder. Have that on your heart. Have that on your mind. Have that on your soul. It's that Jesus came to earth. God sent him here to show us how to live, teach us how to live. And he did that. And his Jesus' teachings, Jesus lived them out. And then in Acts, his apostles lived out Jesus' teaching, telling more and more people. Paul lived out Jesus' teaching and telling more and more people. Peter and John wrote about living out the life that Jesus lived, and that all starts with loving God. Just remember that. It's the greatest command for a reason. If you put God first and love him with all you've got, if you love your neighbor, love your friend, love your enemies, even if it's the last thing you want to do, it's what you got to do. Because Jesus laid down his life, not so that we could be hateful, not so we could grumble through life, so that we could love on him, he could love on us, and we could love on others. Because the most important thing that we do in this lifetime is tell others about the love of Jesus.